Put it in without having thought about that.
That's true. So, anything else you want to point out?
No, but I want to ask you, let's talk about the author, Strukul. You know him since how many years? Or when did you first meet?
We were in late teens, let's say about 18, so about 20 years ago. Roughly, 18 to 20 years ago.
So what was your relationship then?
I don't know if he's happy if we talk about it.
Well, they are nearly in a close to marriage state at the moment. So how bad could I have been?
Not any longer.
Okay, so you filed for divorce.
We are divorced. Yeah, the story is that we shared actually hotel rooms during 2 different author tours in Italy in 2012 and 2013. Hence the joke that we are a couple.
Mm. Anyway, go back 20 years ago.
Yeah. What about it?
How did you meet? I mean, you must know each other from something, so what was it?
Well, I'll actually mention university.
Uh-huh.
We knew each other through mutual friends, really. And we studied in the same faculty, which is law, which I failed to finish.
Well, you majored in other things, it's fine.
I have another degree, yes, I did manage at the end. While Matteo has a PhD, actually, in international law. And we ended up actually trying to prepare an exam together, at least, no, only one actually, that I think I failed while he aced it.
So he knew what it was about, but he was not able to teach you.
And we were not
up to speed.
teaching each other, we were trying to study together, but he was much... He liked the topic, I didn't at the end, I realized. I was not aware of it yet, but just didn't like it. The curious thing was, though, that at the time, to remember some details, it was Italian public law, diritto pubblico. The principles of that was that to memorize certain details, certain maybe either silly or complicated things, Matteo would make up a very quick story, featuring people who had problems with that issue or whatever, just to help himself mostly memorize it, because unfortunately it didn't help me enough. Maybe because the stories were too good. And I have witness testimony from Michele Fioretto, good friend of ours, and acquaintance at least of Matteo at the time, that he did it for other exams as well. So he was already a storyteller, has always been, I think.
Yeah, sounds like it, that he had...
Oh, that's true, we actually started seeing each other often at the comic book shop.
Oh, okay. Alright, so your impression of him from 20 years ago, would you have, or even from now, how far away is Matteo Strukul from the qualities of Mila? Besides that she's a woman, clearly, but...
Yeah, he's lacking breast and and he has a beard. Not going into other details because I do not have direct experience. I don't think he's such a good shooter either, and I don't know if he did martial arts.
Yeah, it's a bit difficult to picture him as a martial arts expert.
I'm sure he must have done some.
Really? Okay,
I don't know.
You need to find out.
I'll ask him. Well, Matteo, let us know in the comments, thanks.
Good.
No, well, Mila is driven by revenge. That's not a secret, and this is not a spoiler, it's blatant. And I don't think that Matteo is in a similar situation, simply. I think that he's a happy person. He's doing what he likes to do. He's really happy with his wife. He has a great family behind him.
Yeah.
I don't know his parents too well, but they are great people. They're very supportive, that's definitely.
Yeah, we could see that when we were at the Sugar Pulp Festival in Italy. Yeah. As I already mentioned it, Sugar Pulp.
Yeah.
He is one of the organizers.
He's one of the founders of the movement, and the only one of the founders who's still in the movement.
Alright. So, what is Sugar Pulp about? What are their goals? How are they developing? Tell someone who wouldn't have heard of that so far. What is it?
Sugar Pulp is, well, it started as an organization of people who wanted to write and read. I think, I was not there when it started, right?
So when was it about?
2011.
Alright.
Around the release of Mila, maybe 2010. Not 100% sure. It is on the website, I just have blank at the moment. It is a group of people, it started as a group of people including several writers.
Like?
Well, the other founder is Matteo Righetto, who wrote Bacchiglione Blues, Savana Padana, La Pelle dell'Orso, at the moment as far as I know. And again, Matteo, mostly, they were the two founders. Supported by a bunch of people who maybe are working away in publishing or as a hobby are great readers or simply write for their own enjoyment rather than for publication, although I don't think that anybody would be sorry if they were published. Some of them have been. I thought I wanted to mention Carlo Vanin, for instance. I don't know why. I don't like you, Carlo.
That sounded so honest.
Yeah. Or well, Giacomo Brunoro, who's the president of of Sugar Pulp. Andrea Andretta is the vice president and the webmaster of sugarpulp.it and sugarpulp.com, which I suggest everyone to go check because it's also a beautiful website, to be fair. And sugarpulp.com, Sugarpulp Worldwide. Actually, we're looking for articles, so anyone who wants to review something, they're welcome. Let me know. It became a genre at the end. That's Massimo Carlotto at the last festival in September 2013, or late September, early October, I can't remember now, says Sugar Pulp has become a genre. It is about literature, mostly it is thriller, mystery, not necessarily. There is fantasy, there is, although not high fantasy. High fantasy is dragons and wizards and flying things like that. I don't think there's anyone who writes that, as far as I know. Science fiction, any kind of fiction anyway. Not high fiction. Although I don't think that high fiction would be refused, as long as it is linked to the territory, so to the place where people live. Initially it was born as something local from northeastern Italy, the Padova area. Padova is 20 miles from Venice, about 60-70 from Verona, actually on the way between the two, for those who don't know. And that's where both Matteo Righetto and Matteo Strukul still live, thereabouts. And where they grew up and where most of the movement, of the early members of the movement of Sugar Pulp were and are living, again, in Padova and that area. So initially it was focused on that area. And now, very simply, it is about literature based on a place. It doesn't need to be the place where one lives in. For instance, 12 Children of Paris, a historic novel by Tim Willocks, was being a special guest in all 3 Sugar Pulp festivals, and he's already been announced for the 4th. No team, no festival, clearly. And actually won the Sugar Prize in 2012.
Like Joe Lansdale got it in the first year.
The first one was for Joe Lansdale, the second one for Tim Willocks, the third one for Massimo Carlotto. 12 Children of Paris, it's a historic novel, there is blood, there is a mystery, to be fair. I mean, the character is moved by something by trying to understand something that has happened. I'm not saying anything about that. It's a beautiful novel. that it is kind of sugar pulp because it is set in Paris, although Tim Willox is an English writer who lives in Ireland. And Paris really is a character in the novel. It definitely is a character in the novel. And it's definitely a sugar pulp novel. I don't think that Tim was actually set to write a sugar pulp novel, also because his previous novels that were written and published before the sugar pulp movement are, in a way, sugar pulp, even if sugar pulp doesn't exist. Yeah.
Isn't it also a characteristic of sugar pulp literature that it is that the story happens within a very short time frame? That's my impression from what I read so far. Is it just my impression, or is it general kind of thing?
It is something that is shared by most of the more relevant sugar pulp novels. I don't think it's a guideline. And for instance, again, I'll mention again Mirko il Mostro by Carlo Vanin, which is very simply, I read it very recently, and Carlo is again one of members of sugar pulp. That only takes place over several months. Mm-hmm. So, and it's perfectly sugar pulp, and it's perfectly linked to the territory, although he never mentions where it is set, because it can be set really anywhere. There are descriptions that make sure people understand that it is northeastern Italy, if you know about it.
Mm-hmm. Coming back to, or going back to Strukul, what do you think, I mean, with this Mila story, he set out a great path, not only for the character, but also for himself. Mm-hmm. Where do you see him, let's say, in about 10 years' time?
I hope for him, and I think it is possible, that we'll have written more Mila books. He mentioned that the third one is in the works. Several non-Mila books, one is coming out very soon actually, and it is again a thriller set in the late 19th century in Padua, mm-hmm. with as a main character, well, as one of the main characters, I've not read it of course, it's not out yet, an alienist. It will be very interesting.
Alright.
He's doing a lot of other kind of work. He's working for publishers as a kind of a scout in a way, mm-hmm. Or anyways trying to link publishers to writers. It's not an agent, he doesn't work for a writer, but he works for the publisher. He's a translator too, has done several very interesting novels and comics especially. He's writing something with Victor Gischler. It's a secret project. He mentioned it on Facebook, I think yesterday or today. So they are working together. Nobody knows on what.
That's interesting. I mean, just thinking of crossing Mila with the characters from Shotgun Opera, it must be huge.
Yeah, I have no idea if it will be a novel, a comic book.
Probably something with vampires, zombies, and
werewolves. Matteo has werewolves.
Oh, okay.
He has a story about werewolves apparently in future Germany, Berlin specifically, that he has mentioned some time ago. I don't know what is happening with that, if he's writing it, if he's looking for somebody who will publish it, or if he just put it on the back burner at the moment. I'm sure he will keep writing a lot, because he does it well. He's very precise, very detailed. He has a peculiar style. With, for instance, as one characteristic, he uses very precise words to define things. It is very, very his own. So he has found a personal style, which is very interesting. So he does have a future as a writer. There are two volumes of a comic book from a new story of Mila. Third one should be coming out soon, I hope, because the story is not ended yet and I want to know what happens. There has been a trailer for a possible movie filmed by Lida Patitucci, a great Italian director. We hope, everybody who has read Mila hopes, really, of course Matteo hopes it as well, that it is picked up and made into a proper movie. I would love to watch that.
So, do you think there is a chance for Italian author like Matteo Strukul to become big?
Depends what you mean with big.
Well, let's say international recognition. I mean, probably not like Stephen King famous, but...
Well, there's fewer famous as Stephen King.
Yeah, true.
Maybe Lansdale.
Yeah, no, I was wondering, Lansdale, I have never heard of him before I met him at the Sugar Pop Festival, so... let's say to a level that people will recognize the name when they read it and say, yeah, he's a writer. I don't know what, I never read anything, but I know he exists and he's a writer. Do you think it's achievable?
I cannot think of many who actually achieved that anyway. Except for the big, really huge names here, Stephen King, John Lansdale. But people who read thrillers in a near future, I hope, with Mila and Black Queen, hopefully, might start knowing his name. If he works with Victor Gischler, there is another thing that will help his CV in a way. Victor Gischler, besides novels, has written a lot of comics, which reach more people than novels normally. They just sell more normally, at least on an immediate reaction. I mean, comics sell a lot in the first month, of course, then there is a new episode. Yeah. I mean, Victor Gischler wrote Punisher, wrote X-Men, wrote Deadpool. So most people will know Gischler for those. Working with him might actually help that. Actually, there is that. There is a novella that I wrote with Matteo. I'm very proud of that. It's called Find School. So there is a sequel coming. We have not decided on the title yet. But actually we discussed it, but we didn't get to an agreement yet. That is out in English as well, so you might want to buy it on Amazon. Yeah.
Zu Deutsch, Schleichwerbung. Okay, I don't know how it's said in English, but yeah.
Schleichwerbung. That one.
Yeah.
So, he's trying to put up things in English. I think in Italy he will be, not there yet, I think, to be known by anyone as an author. But I think soon, maybe with another couple of books, the new one is coming out actually next month, on the 1st of April, La Giostra dei Fiori Spezzati, for the people, for the Italian friends who are listening. It will be out on the 1st of April. A third Mila will be coming out. So it might get to the point where people read his name and say, oh, the guy who writes. Internationally, it is, of course, harder. Can he get where Carlotto is, where people who read mystery know his name? I think he can. With a bit of luck, because you need that. And by keeping, writing good books and selling them. Now, a lot depends on how much this one sells. Because, yeah, Exhibit A has option the second one, but they may decide to say, okay, you are just not selling enough. So there's no point.
Which would be really a shame, because the story is so awesome. I can only advise everyone to read it, to get it and read it and enjoy it, and ask them for the next one.
Next year.
Alright, so I'm thinking, from what you told me, that what Strukul is good at, besides writing great stories, is also to build up a network between other authors, publishers, and so on, and try to get him into the right position to be known.
Yeah.
And yeah, sounds pretty good. Something about this video at the end. It was basically our decision to do that. Strukul doesn't know about that.
At all.
And
you will. Oh, you will.
Get your ass kicked. No, it was kind of a need, because the story is so awesome, and I think Strukul deserves it to be recognized, at least for that book, and I'm sure also for the next Mila story to come, and the next one, and also the other books. So my bet thing is that my Italian is so rubbish. I need to have a translation at least into English. So Mila is the only one which has been translated so far, right?
Well, yeah, at the moment he's published 2 books anyway.
Yeah.
In Italian.
Ah. Okay. So here we are at the end.
Yeah.
Hoping to have soon something to talk about the next book. Yeah.
Read the book. With some wine or without. I don't care. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.